Let me tell you something that could completely change the way you look at relationships. If a man truly values you, you will not have to spend every night wondering where you stand with him. You will not have to decode every text message. You will not have to chase him for attention. You will not have to compete with his phone, his friends, his excuses, or another woman just to feel important. Because when a man genuinely values a woman, his actions start speaking louder than his words. And that's what I want you to understand today. A man can tell you, I care about you. He can tell you, you're special. He can tell you, I don't want to lose you. But words are cheap when they aren't backed by behavior. Real value shows up in consistency. Real value shows up in effort. Real value shows up in the way he treats you when nobody is watching. And sometimes the biggest mistake a woman makes is listening to what a man says while ignoring what he repeatedly does. Don't make that mistake, because the right man won't leave you constantly confused about whether you matter to him. He'll make it clear, not because he has to, because he wants to. And there are 5 things a man will consistently do when he truly values you. The first thing is simple but powerful. He makes time for you, not just when he's bored, not just late at night, not just when everything else in his life is already handled. He makes room for you because you matter to him. Think about that. Everybody has responsibilities. Everybody gets busy. Everybody has work, family, pressure, problems, and unexpected situations. So this isn't about expecting a man to be available 24 hours a day. It's about noticing whether he consistently finds a way to stay connected. Because when somebody values you, they don't constantly make you feel like you're asking for too much by wanting their attention. They don't disappear for days and come back with some weak excuse like nothing happened. They don't make you feel guilty for wanting communication. They find a way. Maybe it's a quick phone call. Maybe it's a message during the day. Maybe it's planning time together for the weekend. Maybe it's simply saying, I know I've been busy, but I don't want you to feel forgotten. That's effort. And effort tells you something. It tells you that you're not just an option he remembers when it's convenient. You're somebody he's intentionally making space for. A man who values you understands that relationships don't survive on feelings alone. They survive on attention. They survive on presence. They survive on effort. And here's something you need to remember. Never confuse occasional attention with genuine effort. Anybody can show up when it's convenient. Anybody can send a sweet message when they're lonely. Anybody can say they miss you when they want something. But consistency is different. Consistency says, I don't only want you when I need you. I want you to be part of my life. That's the difference. The second thing a man does when he truly values you is that he respects your boundaries. This one matters more than people realize. A man who values you doesn't believe that loving you gives him permission to control you. He doesn't demand access to every part of your life. He doesn't insult your independence. He doesn't punish you because you said no. He doesn't make you feel guilty for having standards. Instead, he respects the woman you are. If you say, that doesn't feel right to me, he listens. If you need space, he doesn't automatically turn it into a war. If you have goals, he doesn't mock them. If you have opinions, he doesn't make you feel stupid for having them. Because real love doesn't require you to become smaller. Real love gives you room to grow. And a man who truly values you understands that your boundaries are not an attack on him. They're a reflection of your self-respect. Now listen closely. The moment you start lowering your standards just to keep somebody, you start teaching them that they don't have to respect you. And that's a dangerous lesson. You shouldn't have to abandon your peace to prove that you love somebody. You shouldn't have to tolerate disrespect because you're afraid they'll leave. You shouldn't have to accept behavior that destroys your confidence just because you have feelings. The right man won't ask you to betray yourself to keep him. He will appreciate the fact that you know who you are. He will respect your no. He will respect your time. He will respect your body. He will respect your dreams. And most importantly, he'll respect your heart. The third thing a man does when he truly values you is that he keeps his word. Now, this is where you have to pay attention because anybody can make a promise. Anybody can say, I'll change. Anybody can say, I'll be there. Anybody can say, you can count on me. But a man's character is revealed by what happens after he makes the promise. Does he follow through? Does he do what he said? Does he take responsibility when he doesn't? Or does he keep giving you the same excuse wrapped in different words? Because consistency between words and actions is one of the clearest signs that somebody is serious about you. A man who values you doesn't want to become somebody you can't trust. He knows that trust is built one action at a time. When he says he'll call, he calls. When he says he'll show up, he makes an effort to show up. When he makes a mistake, he doesn't spend 3 hours explaining why it wasn't really his fault. He owns it. He apologizes, and then he changes the behavior. That's maturity. And that's something you should never underestimate, because apologies without changed behavior eventually become another form of manipulation. If somebody hurts you, apologizes, repeats it, apologizes again and repeats it again, eventually you have to stop listening to the apology and start watching the pattern. Part tell the truth. A man can tell you anything with his mouth, but his habits will tell you what he really believes. If he consistently keeps his word, that's a man you can begin to trust. If he consistently breaks it, that's information too. Don't ignore information just because you love somebody. The fourth thing a man does when he truly values you is that he protects the relationship. Now, I'm not talking about controlling you. I'm not talking about fighting everybody who looks at you. I'm talking about protecting the connection through his choices. A man who values you doesn't intentionally put the relationship in situations that he knows could destroy trust. He doesn't entertain unnecessary attention from other women just to boost his ego. He doesn't flirt with people and then tell you you're too sensitive for noticing. He doesn't keep secret conversations and expect you to pretend they're harmless. He understands that loyalty isn't just about what you do when you're being watched. Loyalty is about what you choose when nobody would ever know. That's character. And a man who genuinely values you understands that trust is fragile. He doesn't play games with it. He doesn't test how much disrespect you'll tolerate. He doesn't intentionally make you jealous just to see if you'll chase him. He doesn't create insecurity and then blame you for feeling insecure. Instead, he gives you reasons to feel secure. He communicates. He reassures you when reassurance is appropriate. He makes his intentions clear. And when there's a problem, he doesn't run toward another woman for validation. He addresses the problem with you. That's what grown love looks like. And here's where you need to be careful. Never let somebody convince you that jealousy, confusion, and emotional instability are proof of passion. They're not. Sometimes chaos feels exciting because you're constantly waiting for the next emotional high. But peace is different. Peace doesn't mean there's no passion. Peace means you don't have to lose yourself to experience love. A man who values you won't make you feel like you're constantly auditioning for your position in his life. He'll make his position clear. And the fifth thing a man does when he truly values you is that he wants to see you win. This is one of the most beautiful signs of genuine love. When you grow, he doesn't feel threatened. When you succeed, he doesn't become distant. When you become more confident, he doesn't try to bring you back down. He celebrates you. He encourages you. He wants to see you become everything you're capable of becoming. Because a man who truly values you doesn't just fall in love with who you are today. He respects who you're becoming. He understands that you have dreams outside of the relationship. You have ambitions. You have talents. You have a purpose. And he doesn't want to be the reason you abandon them. He wants to be someone who adds strength to your journey. Think about the difference between a man who says, "Why are you spending so much time on that?" and a man who says, "I know how important this is to you. Keep going. I'm proud of you." Those two sentences reveal two completely different kinds of love. One is threatened by your growth. The other is inspired by it. And ladies, you have to understand something. The right relationship should not require you to dim your light so somebody else can feel comfortable standing beside you. You don't need to become less intelligent, less successful, less confident, less independent, less ambitious, just to make a man feel like a man. A secure man doesn't need you to be weak so he can feel strong. He wants a woman with substance, a woman with a mind, a woman with standards, a woman who knows what she brings to the table. And when he truly values you, he doesn't just admire your beauty. He respects your character. He notices your strength. He appreciates your heart. He sees the sacrifices nobody else sees. He recognizes the woman behind the smile. And when life gets difficult, he doesn't suddenly forget everything good about you. He remembers why you matter. That's why you have to stop measuring love by words alone. Look at patterns, look at consistency, look at respect, look at effort, look at how he behaves when he's frustrated, look at how he treats you when he doesn't get his way. Look at whether he celebrates your success. Look at whether you feel emotionally safe around him. Because the truth is, anybody can perform a finch for a short period of time, but eventually character comes through. And when a man truly values you, you won't have to spend your entire relationship begging him to prove it. His behavior will keep answering the question for you. You will see it in the time he makes. You will see it in the promises he keeps. You will see it in the boundaries he respects. You will see it in the loyalty he protects. And you will see it in the way he supports the woman you're becoming. So don't chase proof from someone who keeps giving you confusion. Don't beg for effort. Don't negotiate for basic respect. Don't convince someone to appreciate what they already have. Your job is not to force a man to value you. Your job is to recognize when he does. And once you understand the difference, you stop settling for potential and start paying attention to reality. Because love isn't just what someone feels. Love is what someone repeatedly chooses. And the man who truly values you will choose you through his actions, not just through his words. And that brings us to something even deeper. Sometimes the hardest part of love isn't recognizing when somebody values you. It's recognizing when they don't. Because when you care deeply about someone, you naturally want to believe the best about them. You explain their behavior, you defend their absence, you justify their inconsistency. You tell yourself, he's just busy. Maybe he's going through something. Maybe he doesn't know how to express himself. Maybe if I give him more time, he'll change. And there is nothing wrong with giving someone grace. But grace should never become an excuse for ignoring a pattern. At some point, you have to stop asking, what could he mean? And start asking, what is he actually showing me? That's where your power begins, because a woman who knows her worth doesn't need to investigate every little thing a man does. She watches, she observes, she pays attention, and she lets behavior speak. If he values you, you'll feel it. Not because every day will be perfect, not because he'll never make a mistake, not because there will never be an argument, but because even during difficult moments, there will still be respect. There will still be effort. There will still be accountability. There will still be a desire to repair what was damaged. That's the difference between a relationship that has problems and a relationship that is the problem. Every healthy relationship has challenges, but a healthy man doesn't use those challenges as an excuse to stop treating you like you matter. He doesn't disappear every time things become uncomfortable. He doesn't punish you with silence just because you disagreed. He doesn't make you feel like loving him means constantly walking on eggshells. He understands that disagreements don't have to become destruction. Sometimes love looks like saying, I don't agree with you, but I still respect you. Sometimes love looks like saying, I'm upset right now, but I don't want to hurt you. Sometimes love looks like taking a step back, calming down, and coming back with a better attitude. That's emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is attractive because it creates safety. You know where you stand. You know that one argument won't suddenly erase the entire relationship. You know that conflict won't automatically turn into abandonment. And that kind of security is priceless. But there's another thing you need to understand. A man who values you will also listen to you. Not just hear the sounds coming out of your mouth. Listen, there's a difference. Hearing is passive. Listening requires intention. When you tell him something is bothering you, does he immediately dismiss it? Does he say you're overreacting? Does he turn the entire conversation around until you're apologizing for bringing up the issue? Or does he actually try to understand? A man doesn't have to agree with everything you say to respect what you're saying. That's important. He can have a different perspective. He can see the situation differently. But he should still care about how something affected you. Because when someone values you, your feelings matter to them even when they don't completely understand them. And that's something you should never have to beg for. You shouldn't have to scream to be heard. You shouldn't have to cry just to get somebody's attention. You shouldn't have to threaten to leave before someone finally starts taking you seriously. The right person doesn't need your pain to become dramatic before your feelings become important. He pays attention. He learns you. He remembers the little things. He knows what makes you smile. He notices when something feels different. He can tell when you're quiet, even though you're saying you're fine. That's not because he's perfect. It's because he's present. And presence is one of the greatest forms of love because you can be physically next to someone and emotionally miles away. You can share a bed with someone and still feel completely alone. You can talk to someone every day and still feel unheard. That's why I don't measure love by proximity. Measure it by connection. A man who values you doesn't just want access to you. He wants to understand you. He wants to know your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, your sense of humor, your values, your boundaries, the things that make you feel safe, the things that make you feel loved. And he doesn't use that knowledge against you. He uses it to love you better. That's a major difference because anybody can learn your weaknesses, but a good man learns your heart and protects it. And if you've ever been with someone who made you question your worth, I want you to understand something. Their inability to value you was never proof that you weren't valuable. Ride that again in your mind. Someone failing to recognize your worth does not reduce your worth. A diamond doesn't become less valuable because somebody doesn't know how to identify it. Your value doesn't rise because somebody chooses you. And your value doesn't disappear because somebody walks away. You were valuable before they met you. You were valuable while they loved you. And you remain valuable if they leave. That's why you have to stop handing other people the authority to determine how you see yourself. A relationship should add to your life. It should not become the source of your entire identity. You should be able to love a man deeply without losing yourself completely. You should be able to care about him without abandoning your own dreams. You should be able to support him without becoming responsible for fixing him. And you should be able to walk away from disrespect without believing that you're losing your value. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop chasing an answer from someone who has already answered you through their behavior. That's painful, but it's powerful because clarity doesn't always feel good. Sometimes clarity hurts. Sometimes you realize that the person you wanted wasn't the person you actually had. Sometimes you realize you fell in love with potential. Sometimes you realize you were holding on to memories instead of reality. And sometimes you have to accept that somebody can have feelings for you and still not know how to love you properly. Those two things can exist at the same time. A man might care about you and still be emotionally unavailable. He might miss you and still not be ready for commitment. He might love certain things about you and still not have the maturity required to build a healthy relationship. That's why feelings alone aren't enough. You need compatibility. You need respect. You need consistency. You need character. You need accountability. You need somebody whose actions can support the love they claim to feel, because love without action eventually becomes exhaustion. And you deserve more than exhaustion. You deserve peace. You deserve a relationship where you don't constantly question whether you're wanted. You deserve someone who doesn't make you compete for basic attention. You deserve someone who understands that your heart is not a toy. And most importantly, you deserve to become the kind of woman who refuses to settle simply because she's afraid of being alone. Being alone is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Losing yourself is. Never forget that there are women who stay in relationships because they fear starting over. They fear being single. They fear what people will say. They fear that nobody else will come. And fear makes you negotiate against yourself. But sometimes being alone gives you the space to rebuild the parts of yourself that you abandoned trying to keep somebody else happy. Sometimes solitude teaches you what chaos never could. Sometimes walking away teaches you what boundaries really mean. Sometimes losing someone becomes the moment you finally find yourself. So don't be afraid of choosing peace. Don't be afraid of having standards. Don't be afraid of saying, this isn't enough for me. You don't need to convince everybody to understand your decision. You don't need permission to protect your heart. And you don't need to apologize for wanting a relationship where you are genuinely valued. Remember those 5 things. A man who values you makes time for you. He respects your boundaries. He keeps his word. He protects the relationship. And he wants to see you win. Those things aren't impossible. They're not unrealistic. They're not asking for perfection. They're asking for intention. They're asking for character. They're asking for a man whose actions match his words. And if you're already with someone who does these things, appreciate it. Don't take consistency for granted. Tell him you notice. Tell him you appreciate his effort. Because good relationships aren't built by one person constantly proving themselves. They're built by two people recognizing each other's value. And if you're not with someone like that right now, don't panic. Don't rush. Don't settle because you're lonely. The wrong relationship can make you feel lonelier than being single ever could. Take your time. Watch, listen. Observe, let people reveal themselves. You don't have to force a connection. You don't have to chase somebody into commitment. You don't have to convince somebody that you're worth choosing. The right person doesn't need to be manipulated into seeing your value. And here's the final lesson I want you to carry with you. Never measure your worth by how hard somebody fights to keep you. Measure your worth by how deeply you respect yourself when they don't. Because your power isn't in making a man afraid to lose you. Your power is in knowing you will never lose yourself trying to keep him. That's the mindset that changes everything. When you know your worth, you stop begging. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You stop accepting crumbs and calling them love. You stop confusing attention with commitment. You stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. You stop confusing potential with reality. And you start watching what matters. SOPs, consistency, respect, effort, character. That's where the truth lives. So if you're sitting there wondering whether a man truly values you, don't torture yourself trying to read his mind. Watch his behavior. Does he make space for you? Does he respect you? Does he keep his word? Does he protect your trust? Does he support your growth? If the answer is yes, pay attention to that. And if the answer is no, don't ignore what you're seeing simply because you wish the story were different. Your heart deserves honesty. Your life deserves peace. And your future deserves a relationship where love doesn't feel like a constant battle for recognition. You are not asking for too much when you ask for respect. You are not needy because you want consistency. You are not difficult because you have boundaries. You are not selfish because you want to be valued. And you are certainly not unlovable because one person failed to love you correctly. Never let somebody else's inability to appreciate you become the story you tell yourself about who you are. Stand tall. Now you keep your standards, protect your peace, and let actions reveal what words try to hide. Because when a man truly values you, you won't have to spend every day wondering. You'll see it, you'll feel it, you'll recognize it. And most importantly, you'll know that you never had to beg for it. That's the kind of love worth waiting for. That's the kind of love worth building. And that's the kind of love that reminds you that you didn't have to become somebody else to be worthy of being chosen. You only had to become brave enough to stop accepting less than you deserve.